Finally, when I'd say, oh, the actual Marxists have shown up, people don't believe them. They say, oh, you've been saying this for 50, 60 years. So, it's all, they're not going to listen. And from me and Adam's perspective, I mean, we were both pretty in the left wing bubble. We were both very liberal. And it was only until the dreaded SJWs started to pop up and started to have these what seemed to be anti left wing positions, at least what would consider left wing at the time, about being anti free speech and concentrating on microaggressions and all this other stuff that seemed to be very anti liberal. And for years, I didn't understand where any of this was coming from. And I was like, well, I don't understand why the liberal left has suddenly turned its back on everything it stood for the last 20, 30 years. And it was only until I really liked Christopher Rufo or like James Lindsay, until I really dived into CRT and said, oh shit, it's because it's not liberal. It's because this is all leftist ideology.
You understand,
and that's why it seems so foreign to me.
Do you understand why Christopher Rufo, who's admitted to lying explicitly, this is not an opinion, he's admitted to intentionally lying about critical race theory, and James Lindsay, who's a...
Now this is, Jangles, a total pivot, because this had nothing to do with what I was talking about.
Yep.
At all, really.
True.
Psychopath.
So
James Lindsay's a psychopath.
Oh my God. Oh, we have to clip this out.
Psychopath.
Do you think, I mean, we've had James Lindsay on. Granted, it was kind of, I mean, we got him before he started going crazy on Twitter, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I mean, neither of us just agrees with everything that James Lindsay says, but I wouldn't label him a psychopath.
I know it is.
It's a little much. I think it's a little much. By little, I mean a lot. But
it's a little out there, yeah.
Yeah, but it's okay.
I mean, once you're labeled I mean, I don't really know what to do with that. I mean, how do you argue against someone who just labels you a psychopath?
Right.
I'm using Jangles' argument that he used with me.
Yeah,
you
I
called me
that.
dishonest.
I noticed
How can I defend against that? Jangles, how is Lindsay supposed to defend against your psychopath? You're a psychopath. Let's hear it one more time. Look, he's got so much vigor in his eyes.
He's admitted to intentionally lying about critical race theory. And James Lindsay, who's a psychopath. So James Lindsay's a psychopath. These two people are not the best representatives of the ideology.
Well, first of all, that doesn't really address what I'm saying. But Christopher Rufo admitted that he's broadening the label of CRT to encompass all woke things. Okay, so I understand that is somewhat dishonest, but
it's not like, no, it's not.
I don't really
dishonest.
care because the problem is we do need to fight back against wokeness, and we don't really have a good label for it.
Would you say that you, Sitch, also need to fight against anti-wokeness?
Anti-wokeness or wokeness?
Yeah, anti-wokeness.
I don't know what that means.
It means like all right, so with the very, very broad label of woke, there's some things
in
woke
white supremacy. Look, I just totally demystify it for everyone. Sitch, how are you not? This is so obvious to me. He's asking you. He might as well have said, Sitch, don't you think we need to fight against white supremacy?
Because a lot of these conversations are people throw out things that are kind of vague, and if you spin it in the worst way right off the bat, you're giving them the room to navigate away from whatever they actually mean.
Oh, so it's brilliant what you're doing.
I usually like to let them be as specific as possible before I'm going to take a hard stance on something like that.
I think your nickname should be Spider. I think that would be a fitting nickname. My debate bro, Spider. Spinning his web.
Got a little teardrop tattoo under my eye.
Spider. I think it works, man.
Okay.
It could be. I'm gonna put a little web in the back.
There you go. Put a little Spider-Man swinging around in the background.
Yeah, exactly. Here he is. He's reeling him in, guys.
Yeah, well, in the very, very broad label of woke, I think there's some good things. I think it's cool that gay people get to exist in media, but that's called woke. I think it's cool when black...
Look at that. It used to be called liberalism from what I remember.
Right. Well, and also, I mean, Jangles, you're all over the place now because I asked you, I said, what do you mean by anti-woke? And now you're describing woke.
Yeah.
And I think this is what's triggering Adam a lot.
Well, this is
too.
what I call bullshit, right?
And it's what's triggering a lot of people in the audience, where they're like, they feel like you're not answering the question, because it's like every question is kind of, even if you answer it, it's like it takes a long time to get to wherever you go.
Yeah. Yes. We feel like you're leading us around on a little wild goose chase. Like we invited you on because we want to know your opinions.
Mm-hmm.
Black people get to be the main character in media, but a lot of people call that woke. And that's what I'm talking about.
You're right, and that's you're right, and that's part of the problem. Woke is too broad of a category, and people whenever a label exists, people will use it for everything. Just like they'll call everything woke, they'll call everything racist. I understand.
I know.
And so I'll try to be more
lefties pull out, use the label racist. They use the label fascist way too broadly.
For
but I want just this one bridge.
Let me be very specific then. Okay.
Build the bridge.
What I want is to push back against radical leftist identity politics, or radical leftist, and unfortunately I have to use a term, cultural Marxism. That's what I want to push back against. And we can't use that term because that term has been labeled
that is such a Vosh destiny.
Right.
That huge oh my God, to the camera. Oh my God. Don't you, isn't that, I mean, can we have a debate on whether or not that's dishonest? Because it feels a little dishonest to me.
Well, it's a rhetorical flourish strategy, yeah.
Is all rhetoric dishonest?
We had this debate before. Yeah, is all rhetoric manipulation or not?
He's so proud of himself. He's like, oh, Vosh is gonna see this. Look, I'm doing it. Am I doing it right? I can just imagine Vosh, Destiny, Lance. They're all sitting there watching as he does this great gesture to the camera.
Okay, so but my memory was correct. The person who did clip this, they didn't clip obviously it's a long part of a conversation, so it's not like they clipped the very next word, but they were dishonest. I wasn't saying I'm fine with lying as long as it poems to woke people. I'm explaining why I don't have a problem with Chris Rufo broadening the definitional label of CRT, because as Jangles said, woke has already been poisoned as being overly broad, and we do need a term that describes all this leftist, cultural, neo-Marxist academic nonsense. Mm-hmm. And the problem is we can't use the term cultural Marxist because for some reason, I don't know how this happened, but the leftists very quickly jumped on that and made that term too toxic to be described as the term to use, even though the term cultural Marxist was literally created by Marxists to explain what they were doing.
Yeah. They pulled a Rufo before Rufo Rufoed.
That's right. They Rufoed the roof. They pre-Rufoed. Right. So that's what I'm saying. If the conversation has been already dishonestly pulled in some direction and we need a new term, and Chris Rufo wants to broaden CRT label, which I don't even think is even that dishonest, or even I will say this, I don't even think it is dishonest in terms of that it is praxis. It is CRT praxis. It is woke praxis. And all these woke academic shit that we're talking about, they all operate under the same core base assumptions.
Yeah, critical theory.
Now, there's obviously I'm assuming there's some difference between critical race theory and Afro-pessimism and critical gender stuff and all that shit, but that's irrelevant to the broader conversation. That's not what anyone's talking about.
I don't see how there's any difference between critical race theory and Afro-pessimism. They seem one and the same to me. I don't see how you can teach people critical race theory in schools and not everyone walk away just feeling like shit, just feeling like total shit. Yeah.
Sure.
And that's the whole point of it. It's lame.
Right. A conspiracy theory.
Because do you acknowledge that there's some legitimate roots in Nazism?
Well, no, because the term was created by Marxists for Marxist use, and then in the 60s and 70s, and then it was sort of dishonestly by some Marxists warped into meaning, oh, when you say cultural,
he said under his breath and then co-opted. So he does.
Right.
He does know.
But who co-opted it?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know the answer to that question. Marxists, you're really likening back to cultural Bolshevism or whatever. Okay, which I'm sure some Nazis were doing, but like the OK sign, that doesn't mean that we can't have a term to describe the concept we're trying to talk about.
All right, cool. Hey, if you want to have a broader conversation about all this stuff.
Okay. That's fine. No answer. There you go.
No answer.
There you go.
Is it pointless to debate people that are just not going to answer? Is it? I mean, these performative debates, I got to admit, they're pretty fun. They are fun. I don't know that they're helpful, but they're fun.
So Heck said you should call most of it critical theory, which that would be accurate. The problem is that every normie, if you say this is critical theory, they instantly think it has something to do with critical thinking.
Yeah, which is something you want.
Which was what they want.
Yes.
But it's not. Like critical theories have nothing to do with critical thinking. It's the opposite. Yeah.
Yes.
You have to turn all your critical thinking off in order to absorb all these critical theories.
Yeah.
So
critical
that's
thinking
the problem with that
hurts
label.
critical theory.
Right. I mean, and it literally is cultural Marxism. It's saying, hey, we want to implement a Marxist lens to enact a Marxist revolution. It's not working via class, so let's just start inserting various culture aspects until we spin the slot machine and we get what we want. And they've been doing it with gender and sexuality and race until they got what they want, and they're finally starting to get some traction with race now in America.
Yeah.
So no, I mean it's cultural Marxism.
If it wins elections, that's
maybe if the term cultural Marxism has been too poisoned, we should start calling it just neo-Marxism. And I know Jordan Peterson was saying postmodern neo-Marxism, but that's too much.
Right.
I think he's correct, but that's too much. That's too confusing. Just say it's neo-Marxism, period.
Neo-Marxism has the advantage of it sounds similar to neo-Nazis, which nobody likes anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. I didn't even think about that. You're right.
Neo-Marxism could be excellent. Excellent play.